Headline News continues to bring you the latest on Typhoon Mona. Up next, we tell you how the government is helping those affected by the storm. And we talk about the Butterfly House, a sustainable housing solution that deploys in just minutes. This is Headline News on CNN Philippines. We've got more stories for you. It's a win for Los Angeles Clippers as they take on the Detroit Pistons. And we'll talk about an invention of a Filipino entrepreneur called the Butterfly House. This is CNN Philippines. One of the strongest typhoons ever recorded in the Philippines was Yolanda. It made catastrophic effects in the Visayas region. Millions of homes have been damaged and housing over 100,000 evacuees has been a challenge for the government. A Filipino entrepreneur and inventor created the Butterfly House that the Senate dubs as a viable and sustainable solution to this problem. It's compact and portable and deploys in minutes. Let's talk to its inventor, 10 Outstanding Young Men Awardee for Social Entrepreneurship, Rogelio, Vonz Santos. Good morning, Vonz.
Good morning. Pleasure to be here.
So, Vonz, I remember that the Butterfly House was introduced a few months or immediately after Typhoon Yolanda struck the Visayas. Right. So for those who have yet or who are hearing this for the first time, tell us more about this Butterfly House.
So the Butterfly House, I actually created it to inspire a new type of thinking, a way to be proactive about the disasters that we're facing on a regular basis. So it's like a traditional house in the sense that it has a roof, it has walls, a door, windows, but it folds. And what's unique about that is that by having the ability to fold, for example, it folds to 2 feet when it's completely closed in.
So it's like
this big, and it becomes an 18 square meter house. Now by doing that, we can take a truck, load 15 houses, for example, and I send 2 trucks over to a disaster area. Within days, there's 30 houses, 30 families.
Or you could stock it easily in a warehouse, yes, and then just deploy it when needed, right?
Absolutely.
So from 2 feet, it can become 18 square meters.
Yes.
All right, 18 square meters, that's big enough. It's bigger than a parking space.
Yeah,
now, what does it have? What's it made of?
Well, first of all, it's a steel frame structure. So the one thing that I always hear is that it's a folding house. Is it really strong? And actually, we have survived typhoons and seen other houses around us destroyed. The reality is, when you look at the way the structure is built, it's a steel frame. It's a steel frame cage in a lot of ways. So it's very, very sturdy. Every piece is connected to one another, which makes it very different from a traditional house architecture. But the paneling itself is made of recycled sachets. And so because of the way it's made without resin, it's actually fire resistant and waterproof. So you're talking about a structure that can last decades. So it's not like your traditional, cocoa lumber structure or quick deploy hut. It's literally it's a system that can be used over and over again.
What about strong winds? Can it withstand strong winds?
Oh yes, absolutely. In fact, the way the house is designed, there's a lot of engineering and science that went behind this house. On top of, for example, in our offices alone, we have very advanced software that does modeling, stress analysis, earthquake analysis, storms.
You can simulate a typhoon.
And the reality is, we have 20 typhoons in this country a year. The way I see it, one day, instead of becoming known as a disaster victim that's constantly getting hit, the Philippines can become the disaster response experts. And I don't see typhoons as disasters anymore. We see them as testing grounds.
So I understand that some butterfly houses can be found now in the Visayas. How many are there right now?
So throughout this year, we've been deploying houses with the help of the Philippine Disaster Recovery Foundation and international NGOs that have stepped in. So to date, we have over 300 houses over there in Tacloban. And what's nice about it is that we have an expansion scenario next year. So right now, our factory is literally producing 25 houses a week. So, and that's very fast construction. So we're talking about a structure that can be mass produced in a factory. We're hoping to double that by mid next year.
And you're even receiving orders from abroad right now, right?
That's the one thing that's very exciting about the project. It was invented a month after Yolanda took place, and the reality is the IDPs, internally displaced people, is such a huge problem around the world. Millions displaced. We have over 8 countries and thousands of orders all over the world.
But you want to start here in the Philippines, of course.
That's our focus, yes.
And then if I recall, it's not that expensive. How much is one house?
A house, we have two prices. Our regular pricing is around 5,000 pesos per square meter for the disaster scenario. That's our relief work. And then, of course, we have a commercial side pricing, which is much higher. But the advantage of that is that it's a social enterprise. So profits that we make from the commercial sales actually feed back into donating houses back into the community.
And I understand you also have this new design. Can you tell us more about this?
Very exciting. So we started with housing. And so when you talk about housing, the agencies right now, they can be very prepared with food and clothes, but how could you be really prepared with shelter? So with the Butterfly House, we've changed the game, changed the landscape. What happened was, as we deployed these houses to the families, we were then asked and said, hey, you know, beyond housing, they need a livelihood. And so when you think about livelihood, the most basic thing is a place to sell. So we developed not a traditional marketplace, but we'll be deploying our own Butterfly Mini Mall come January this year in Tacloban, and the design is actually inspired by the Nipa hut. Now the Butterfly Hut, which is what we call it, I think to me, I'm very excited about the project because you're talking about a structure which is iconic to the Philippine culture, but hasn't changed in hundreds of years, and we've all of a sudden reinvented it. So that is the Butterfly Hut.
Very exciting. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Vonz.
Thank you so much for having me.
We just had the inventor of the Butterfly House, Rogelio Vonz Santos. Let's enter J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter world again with the first trailer of Fantastic Beasts and where to find them. Take a look at this. A fire threatens the home of penguins, sharks, and fish in Salt Lake City. Headline News will be right back.